Welcome to the Heartbreak to Happiness Show with Sara Davison. If you're struggling with a breakup and you feel shocked, angry, betrayed, devastated, or sad and alone, then this podcast is for you. Best-selling author and award-winning host Sara Davison shares how you too can get on with your life to heal, grow, and move from heartbreak to happiness.
It's literally you're just thinking about food and trying to control food or losing control with food and losing control with your body and fighting with the number on the scale.
Is this something that it can affect anyone, right? It's not, It can affect absolutely anybody, but it's something that has, like, a lot of people keep secret because it's not something that you hear a lot of people talking about. So, there's still quite a lot of stigma around it, I imagine.
Unfortunately, and no one should feel shame or guilt if they're doing it or embarrassed because you're not alone and it's not your fault, and we haven't been properly educated or taught about these kinds of behaviors and why we have them. It's not a willpower issue. It's not a do better on your diet issue. It's got nothing to do with any of that. This is so complex and multi-layered physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, hormonally, spiritually, behaviorally, chemically in the brain.
Here's your host, Sara Davison.
Welcome back to the show. Now, today I have a really exciting guest. Her name is Amber Romaniuk, and she is an emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert with 12 years of experience helping high-achieving women heal their relationships with food, their bodies, and themselves. Now, Amber herself has gained and lost over £1,000, spending more than $50,000 on Binge foods, and dedicated 5 years of her life to balancing her hormones and digestion. And she transformed her own emotional eating patterns at the root. She is also the host of the No Sugarcoating podcast with over 2 million downloads and listeners in 90 plus countries. And today she helps women achieve profound healing and body freedom so they can live confident, healthy, and deeply fulfilled lives. So I am super excited to welcome Amber to the show. Welcome, Amber.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me. I'm so excited to be with you.
Oh my goodness, I love it. You're on here all the way from Canada. Tell us a little bit about you and your story, because it's really interesting.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And it was a journey that I was not expecting to go on. So what's really interesting about my story is, of course, we have things that shape our, identity as children. And a couple just key defining moments that then really hit the real defining moment that pushed me into binge eating and beyond was when I was 5. It was my first day taking the bus. And I got on the bus and the older boys called me fat and ugly. And then the whole bus made fun of me. And that was a very hurtful, traumatizing moment. And I took on the identity of fat and ugly for the next 20 years of my life, was very insecure, right? Because I thought, well, if strangers are telling me, it must be true, right? So you just believe it. And at 5, I didn't know how to just brush that off or talk to my parents about it. You just okay, well, this must be true. And I'm going to just, be insecure. And then my mom was...
So you got on the bus when you were 5?
Yeah.
And then all the kids called you fat and ugly. And then, at 5, you have no coping strategies to really deal with that. And how many kids are on a bus? In the UK, we don't really have those sort of school buses.
It was probably 30 or 40 kids.
Oh my goodness. Did anyone stick up for you at that point?
No. Everyone's just laughing and yelling and
Oh my goodness. I feel upset for you right now just hearing that, and just imagining if that was my son getting on a bus, how awful that would have been. And the fact that you didn't have, you weren't able to talk to your parents. Were you able to talk to anyone about it?
No, because I didn't really understand the significance of it at the time and how deep in my nervous system and in my body it stayed for a long time. And I think one of the reasons that I didn't talk to my parents about it, and this is kind of the next piece, is my mom was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis before I was born. And so and I'm the only child, so they were dealing with all of that. And I just felt like I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to add any more stress to them. So I feel like for me, one of my coping survival mechanisms was to hold things in. I don't want to be a bother. I don't want to add to anyone's stress. And so that was part of the dialogue. And then unconsciously, using food. I didn't realize I was using food as a coping mechanism from such a young age, but I definitely was. And my mom and I shared a very intimate relationship with food because there's a lot of things we couldn't do together pertaining to her symptoms. And I think she felt a lot of guilt around that. And so food was always in every interaction, everything we did together. And so you just kind of start shaping this relationship with food, and she would eat whatever she wanted whenever she wanted. And I just thought that that was normal. And so I kind of did the same and eat a lot of sugar, processed food, fast food, etc. So you just think it's normal when that's your upbringing. And then, I started dieting in my teens and tweens. I started observing like media and the Hollywood and all this stuff that conditions you that you're not good enough if you don't look a certain way.
Even a celebrity culture, right, where you see what's going on and you think, oh, well, that's
Yeah.
normal, right?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of photoshopping and editing of photo and video that we're not told, and there's no disclaimers. And therefore, we're being sold a lie that makes you not feel good enough. And then they sell you the fake solution, which is the diet, which also doesn't work. But of course, when you're 12, 13, 14, you're usually very gullible and easy to like condition and like convince that this is what you should do.
And also, we see on television, don't we, the diet culture. We see people losing weight. We think, oh, well, if they've done it, but we don't know what else they're doing or if it's a healthy way to lose weight even.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, unfortunately, it's not healthy. And that's the problem. And it's not sustainable. And it's having a negative impact on everything going on internally. And so, yeah, the whole diet thing. And then what really kicked me into binge eating was a breakup. So it was my first real breakup. And I was so hurt I could barely eat. And he broke up with me. So it was very upsetting because I had an attachment relationship style. So I was very attached and like very much kind of almost like took on his personality because I didn't love myself. I didn't have my own sense of self-worth. So there was all of that. And so, yeah, I could
tell us a bit more about that because a lot of my listeners might resonate with that.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about what you mean by attachment relationship there.
Yeah. So personally, from my experience, I feel like because I didn't love myself, I hated my body, I was very insecure in my body and my looks and everything. And because I didn't love myself, when I got love from him, I very much attached to him and like almost like gave my power away to that. Like, oh, well, if he loves me, then I must be good enough. And so that kind of circumstantial worth where it's like, if other people give me love and validation, then okay, I guess I'm kind of good enough, but I need constant validation. I need you to constantly like be reassuring me that you love me and that I'm good enough and that I'm pretty enough and all of these things. And so it was very much being attached to that. And then if we fought or like he had some friends that were girls and I was very jealous and very like, I'd be very triggered if we were spending time together and he wasn't spending a lot of time with me. It was very much like, oh my gosh, like I'm not as pretty as them. So lots of comparison, negative self-talk. And ultimately at the end, what really, I think, completed the relationship obviously wasn't meant to be, which was fine. But I did not have any form of like coping skills. Like I didn't know how to cope with stress in healthy ways. I constantly like thrived off of drama and like arguing. I think at 19, 20 though, like a lot, like if you've watched reality TV growing up, like you kind of think that that's normal when it's not.
Yeah, it's very true, actually.
Yeah.
So you were expecting that drama. Did you have that in your relationship then? A lot of arguments and disagreements?
Yeah, I would say. And a lot of that I think came from like the content that I was consuming, thinking this is what a like what you should do in a relationship. And also I'd gone through some health issues that I couldn't figure out what was going on, which was very nerve-wracking at the time. And that was very stressful. And that just made everything worse. And it essentially like made it to the point where I was very controlling at the time. Like, I don't want you to really go anywhere in case something happens to me. What if I die and no one's here? And like, it was just so extreme because I was having a lot of neurological symptoms and that made me even more insecure and like, please, because he did a lot of mountain climbing and stuff. And so he would go away and I would just be like, I don't want to be alone and like all this stuff. And of course, the other block was as I got into the relationship, I stopped hanging out with my friends. And so it was like, there was nobody really left. Right. So,
yeah.
And I wasn't befriending myself either. So it's like the breakup, like really felt like I literally was just like by myself and I didn't even have myself. But, you know, it was the biggest blessing because it wasn't meant to be. And it wasn't actually a very good relationship. It's like when you haven't had a relationship and someone gives you love and attention, like, you think, oh my
Mm.
gosh, this is amazing. And like, finally I have this, right? When,
I
when
call
you're
that like
secure.
limpet mode when
Yeah.
clients go
Yeah.
and they like sucker themselves to this poor person, like, oh, I found someone who's going to love me. I'm not going to be on my own
Yeah.
anymore. And then it's all consuming. And it's really
Yeah.
normal to do
Yeah.
that when you're vulnerable, or maybe you just come out of a marriage and you're trying to date together. And God forbid, that's like a
Yeah.
big minefield to navigate, isn't it? So, but I think
Yeah.
love and connection is our number one human need. So we often see
Yeah.
that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's quite normal. But
Yeah.
actually, when you look at how healthy that is as an attachment form,
Yeah.
often you're missing things. It may not be a good match. It's just that you've hooked into someone because they gave you some love.
Yeah, and you're tolerant to things that you wouldn't be if you loved yourself and respected yourself, and you don't know how to set boundaries or communicate properly. It's like I was 20, so it's like I had a lot of growth and evolution to go through, but
Sure.
after the breakup I was so hurt I could barely eat, and I lost weight really quickly. I thought reaching my goal weight would fix everything and that he'd want me back, right? It's this whole like revenge body thing. And so I lost the weight, and then he didn't want me back, and then it was kind of this whole screw it mentality of like, well, if he doesn't want me, like, what's the point, right? So um then it kind of like this switch flipped where I thought losing the weight would fix everything and I'd be happy, because that's the lie the diet industry tells you: lose weight and you'll be happy. Like, it's literally what they ingrain into your subconscious mind. And it doesn't actually fix anything, because as we need to remember, weight is external, and nothing external is going to teach you how to love yourself or build your self-worth. And that's the lesson that I had to learn going on this journey. And so when I realized it didn't fix anything, it's like this switch flipped, and now I'm binge eating 6 days a week, 5 days a week, and I'm eating until I'm so full I'm sick. I'm eating tables full of food. I gained 80 pounds in 4 months. Now it's the heaviest that I had ever been.
So can
And
you explain, because binge eating, for people that aren't familiar with it,
mm,
don't know, that means eating a lot. Like, is that in like continuously throughout the day, or is it like if you're working, you come in and you eat, and then you go out and you come back and you just eat more than you normally would? How does that
mhm.
work?
Yeah, so there's different levels of what I'll call emotional eating. So I was emotional eating, I was binge eating, I was into food addiction, I had bulimia. So essentially, emotional eating is eating for any reason other than physical nourishment, but you may not eat until you're really full. It may be like, I'm stressed, I'm upset, I have to have an uncomfortable conversation, I'm going to eat half a chocolate bar, or I'm going to eat that little bag of chips that I don't really need. And then we go to overeating, and so you're eating again for different emotional reasons, because stress, you're trying to fill a void that you're never going to fill with food, but it becomes a coping mechanism essentially because your nervous system is dysregulated and you're not able to feel safe. And so you think food is safe. Um, and so overeating, you might feel a little bloating, discomfort. You're like, overdid a little bit. And binge eating is the full loss of control. So you eat until you're so full, you feel sick. You're so incredibly uncomfortable. You're so bloated. You're in so much pain. And the amount of volume of food that you can eat can be quite shocking. And often what will trigger the binge is a few different things. So you start and then it triggers all or nothing. Oh, I've had something I shouldn't have. Screw it. I'm going to eat whatever I want for the rest of the
Yeah.
day, or I'm going to eat this whole thing of cookies or eat all these donuts, right? So it can really trigger that all or nothing. And that's one of the things that triggers you to go until it's either gone or until you're so full you feel sick. And then there's the whole mentality around, well, really, some foods are very addictive. And so we start eating and we get a huge dopamine high. Dopamine is your reward pleasure neurotransmitter. And then it just feels like you completely lose control and you can't stop until you feel so full you're sick, or until the food is gone. So that's another reason why binge eating can be feel very out of control, because there is that component, and there's many potential things in the body: your blood sugar, your hormones, your gut, your neurotransmitters, that can significantly increase your appetite and make you eat so much more than you ever think you could. So that's binge eating. And then like food addiction is just this asphyxiation, like you're obsessed with food and chasing numbers, the scale. You're constantly thinking about food and planning your next diet, planning your next meal, your next eating style, trying to gain control. Or you're planning your next binge or your next emotional eat. I'm going to go to the store and get this, and I've got this at home, and I'm going to eat that. And it's literally you're just thinking about food and trying to control food, or losing control with food and losing control with your body and fighting with the number on the scale. Um,
Is
yeah.
this something that it can affect anyone, right? It's
Oh,
not,
yeah.
it can affect absolutely anybody, but it's something that has, like, a lot of people keep secret, because it's not something that
Oh,
you hear
yeah.
a lot of people talking about. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's still quite a lot of stigma around it, I imagine.
Unfortunately, yeah. And no one should feel shame or guilt if they're doing it or embarrassed, because you're not alone and it's not your fault. And we haven't been properly educated or taught about these kinds of behaviors and why we have them. It's not a willpower issue. It's not a do better on your diet issue. It's got nothing to do with any of that. This is so complex and multi-layered physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, hormonally, spiritually, behaviorally, chemically in the brain. Like, I had no idea. And until you really start digging in and learning about it and healing it, like, how are you possibly supposed to know how to address it? And especially like when I healed, I realized like, oh, also my mom had a food addiction and I inherited a lot of my behaviors around food from her, not blaming her, but just like the observation of, wow, like this was a lineage thing too. It got passed down. And for a lot of people, especially women, weight and body image issues, dieting, emotional eating, ways using unhealthy ways to cope, unworthiness, a lot of that is passed down from our families, our parents, things like that, or things that happen
It's
to us that
learned.
create these coping mechanisms. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's actually one of the most common, like, sabotaging behaviors, like health issues deemed in North America, that in my opinion is not being treated properly.
I
But
guess it's not
it's,
helped by social media and, filters and all the other things that people
yeah.
put on their profiles. Ozempic now, I guess that's
Oh
a
yeah,
big
Ozempic's
one.
the worst. I don't agree with it at all, because it doesn't, the problem with all this like diet weight loss stuff is it doesn't actually help you address the roots of why you're in the behaviors in the first place. And until we address the roots and do root cause healing, the thing is you can suppress it, you can numb it, you can try to avoid doing it, but at some point it's going to come back and you're going to have to deal with it. And
Because
I
if you're
think that's,
dealing with that shame of doing it, you're keeping it secret, I guess that shame then actually keeps the cycle going.
yeah, it becomes a trigger, because shame is a very dense, heavy emotion to feel. And it's one of the lowest frequency emotions we can feel. And so if we're in shame, it's very uncomfortable. I don't want to feel shame anymore. So I'm going to go numb out with food so that I can avoid feeling it for a little while. I'm going to
Mm.
break from feeling shame and guilt and embarrassment and the anger and the frustration and the hopelessness of, I did that again. I promised myself I wasn't going to do it again, right? Like, I went back and forth for a few years doing this, and finally I started to build awareness that I was binge eating. I went through bulimia for 6 months where I was binging and purging, thinking that if I purge, I won't gain weight and I can just relieve myself. But purging is really the lack of taking ownership and responsibility for what you've just done with the consumption of the food. And so we need to take ownership if we do it and start figuring out why we're behaving that way. But it is very deep. And I think the biggest piece is why we're in it, and what really prompted me onto the healing journey was where I was to the point where I was like binge eating and throwing the food away and eating out of my garbage can, binge eating and throwing the food in the dumpster in the back alley and going and digging through and like pulling it
Wow.
out and eating it. Like, I had such a severe food addiction that I'm like, holy moly, like this is serious. And I think a lot of people with their self-sabotaging behaviors, whether it's eating or online shopping or drinking or mindless scrolling or people pleasing, they think we kind of get into this denial, like it's not really a big deal. This is what I do. It's what feels safe and familiar. It's comfortable. It's my safety blanket. But what we don't realize is the significance of how the behavior is actually hurting us in our health on all
Mm.
levels, and could be impacting our relationships, our bank account. Like, everything in our world is impacted if we're fighting with our body and fighting with food or whatever we're fighting with. And so I needed that low point moment to happen, because I was in denial that what I was doing to myself wasn't a big deal. And it was a very big deal. And I was having a very significant impact. And it's what
So what
prompted me onto
happened
the
when
healing
how
journey.
did that awareness happen for you?
Well, I think essentially I had to get really honest with myself that I was letting denial inhibit me from like looking at why I was behaving the way that I was. Because I was like, oh, it's not a big deal. Food's my friend. I like it. I don't know who I'd be without it. And it'd be sad if I didn't use food as a coping mechanism. But the reality
Mm.
was like I was hurting my body, right? So understanding I was in denial, and the garbage can dumpster moment really crushed the denial and made me be authentic with myself of like, this is an issue and I need to deal with it, because I don't want it to actually like end my life eventually, because I
Mm.
was being so destructive with my body. I think the other thing was realizing that I had a lot of fear around change, fear of the unknown. What if I try to deal with this? What if I fail? The intimidation of I have so many things to deal with. I have like 80 pounds to lose, let alone all the health issues I've caused myself through doing this. Like, I'm overwhelmed and I just don't even know where to start or what to do, because I had zero knowledge of anything I know now. Like, I was going to school to become an entertainment reporter, let alone like get into health and
Oh,
wellness, right?
wow.
So, yeah, and I'm really glad that that didn't happen because this is way more fulfilling. So,
Yeah.
um, but
So
yeah,
what
so
did
it's
you learn from that? That, my listeners, if someone's resonating with this right now and saying, yeah, I'm there, what did you learn that could help them?
Hey, it's Sara here. Just to remind you that we have free online support groups where you can find your tribe and get coaching support from my elite team coaches to help you with any kind of breakup, divorce, separation, toxic relationship breakdown. Get your questions answered and get the boost you need. Also, if you'd like to join our coaching community and turn your pain into your superpower and become a breakup and divorce coach with us, then you can also find the details on my website, saradavison.com. We look forward to seeing
What did you learn that could help them?
Yeah, so I think that one of the biggest things was you're going to have to get uncomfortable to deal with this. You cannot stay in a numbing, because I realized, oh, I'm using food to numb, to cope, to check out of my reality, to avoid feeling my feelings. And so I learned like I have to stop numbing out and checking out. I've got to start feeling my emotions. And even if I just put a timer on for 30 seconds and just give myself 30 seconds and show myself that I am safe, it's uncomfortable to feel, but I'm safe, then I'm going to take a step to do that. And I did. And I built confidence because I'm like, wow, I felt and nothing bad happened. Okay, I can do it. It's safe. I had to get honest with myself that I didn't have any healthy ways to cope with stress. I didn't love myself. I felt very unworthy. And so starting to understand that I had to deal with these pieces and not go on another diet, and eating cell wasn't going to fix this, but actually like learn over time how to love myself and build my worth and understand what was triggering me, because your triggers are teachers and they're trying to show you where you're out of alignment, whether you're emotionally eating, you're people pleasing, you're a perfectionist, you're drinking, whatever it is, whatever's triggering you to go into those behaviors is some level of unworthiness, some lack of self-love, some avoidance or fear of feeling or getting uncomfortable. And there are things that are triggering you that you haven't yet uncovered that are fueling these behaviors. And in order to stop them, we have to be willing to actually dedicate some time. So opening time for self-care, opening time for reflection, opening time for you to take care of yourself and start prioritizing your needs is incredibly important. So many people are running around last on their list, burnt out, overwhelmed, dysregulated, and exhausted, and you wonder why you're reaching for food at the end of the day or numbing out, or that you often feel overwhelmed and chaotic. Well, it's because you need to take time for yourself. So those are some of the biggest things I think that we have to start stepping toward. And a question I started asking myself before I go to food is this physical hunger? Am I actually hungry? Or is this emotional? Because 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even hungry. This is emotional. Okay, what's going on that I need to give some attention to?
Absolutely. And also, I think, a lot of people that follow this might be going through hormonal changes as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
And sometimes that can drive you to do things that maybe you wouldn't normally do, or you wouldn't do
Yeah.
if you weren't hormonal.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do hormones play a part in this as well?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And so when I was in the depth of this at 23 to 24, like I caused so much stress on my body that I put myself postmenopausal. My hormones were like so out of whack. I had a thyroid issue. My cortisol, stress hormone was way too high. I had no progesterone, it's one of your sex hormones. And like I did all that through restriction and binge eating over
Wow.
several years. And so I just bring that up because you don't have to be in perimenopause or menopause to have a hormone issue. I see a lot of women in their 20s and early 30s with significant hormone issues. If they've been if they've been in these kinds of behaviors, if they're fighting with their body and food, or if they've gone through stress or trauma or a breakup or something that's really had an impact on them, like it really impacts your stress hormones. So that's the first thing is, regardless of your age and where you are in your life cycle, we need to look at your hormone function because it definitely is playing a role. And a lot of women, perimenopause starts between 35 and 37 and goes until usually between 50 and 52. Once your period fully stops for 12 months, we deem that as a first sign of menopause. But anywhere in this time, the pattern that I see with most women is high cortisol, and that's your stress hormone. And once your cortisol gets high, the first 2 symptoms of that are exhaustion and fatigue and weight gain, especially in the abdomen. What do women not like? Weight gain in the abdomen. And then they panic and go and restrict more and exercise more, which spikes your cortisol more and makes it easier to hang on to weight more easily, because weight is a protective mechanism. Your body's hanging on to weight because she doesn't feel safe. And so what we have to understand is the more unsafe your body feels, probably the higher your cortisol levels are. Now, also with high cortisol comes increased appetite, because high cortisol increases a hormone called ghrelin, and ghrelin is your hunger hormone. Leptin is your fullness hormone, and high cortisol dulls your ability to feel full. So it feels easier to graze and overeat, and like you don't feel satiated. Anxiety, brain fog, afternoon energy lulls, shaky blood sugar, the feeling hangry if you wait too long to eat, irregular cycles, fertility issues, PMS and PMDD symptoms. These are all potential signs of high or low cortisol, more sensitive digestion. And then what happens for women is if your cortisol is high long enough, it can really start to suppress your metabolism and your thyroid. And your thyroid is a big part of your metabolism. And so I see cortisol too high, and then I see the thyroid become inhibited, and then the hair loss, the eyebrow thinning, the cold hands and feet, anxiety, you don't feel like yourself, you have pronounced fatigue in the morning, you're constipated, your face feels really swollen and puffy, and it feels next to impossible to lose weight when you have a hypothyroid, sluggish thyroid issue. And so then you're feeling even more resentful of your body. You feel undesirable. You don't feel good enough if you've tied your worth up to the way that you look or the number on the scale. And we don't think to look at hormones. We think eat less, exercise more, restrict, right? Like, which is the worst thing we can do, regardless of, again, where you are in your life cycle. And once you get into perimenopause, the eat less, exercise more, fasting thing does not work. It's just going to stress out your hormones and make them worse. I don't suggest anyone past that time, or really, if ever, do things like that, because the more extreme it is, the more it's going to stress your body out. And so then our progesterone gets impacted. Okay, progesterone, in my opinion, so progesterone and estrogen are your sex hormones, but they also impact your mood and all kinds of other things. But I see this epidemic of low progesterone among women through their 20s, into postmenopause. Everyone has a sweet spot where it should be for a woman. However, progesterone's the calming hormone. And if you don't have enough progesterone and your cortisol's high, you're going to feel like it's really difficult to process through stress. You're going to be way more reactive to small things. You're going to yell at your partner more. You're going to be more reactive. You're going to be more critical of yourself and others. You could pick more fights because you literally don't have capacity to cope. Progesterone is incredibly important, not only because it's the calming hormone, but we need enough of it to help circulate and produce different neurotransmitters in the body, which help us feel. Okay, so progesterone helps us produce GABA, which helps us fall asleep, but it also helps us feel calm. And if we have low progesterone and low GABA, we crave more sugar. We want to eat more. So that becomes an easy trigger. Also with low progesterone comes low serotonin. Serotonin is like one of your moods, feeling stable, content, happy, feel good neurotransmitter. So if progesterone's low, that's low. And I'm telling you, you may hit ovulation or certain phases of your cycle and you feel like a completely different person. You all of a sudden feel very negative. You have very dark thoughts. That's part of that PMDD that we can fully resolve. And or again, all of a sudden you're very negative, very reactive. You're getting very argumentative. And this is the biggest one. Low progesterone can inhibit oxytocin circulation in the body. Oxytocin is the connection neurotransmitter. So oxytocin helps you feel connected to yourself and others. And if your progesterone is low, you may feel completely disconnected from your loved ones, including your spouse. And you may love your spouse very much, and there may be no issues in the relationship, but all of a sudden, you literally feel disconnect. You feel apathetic. You feel flatlined. You just feel like, man, even if there's a lot of good things going on in your life, you're just like, I literally don't feel anything right now. It's not depression necessarily. It's literally flatlined. And so the concern and what
why a lot of people break up with partners.
Yes.
Going through menopause when they've had great relationships, their partner doesn't know what's going on. They're unlikely to understand this. So again, it just makes it even worse.
Yes. And this is the point, right? So like, instead of just deciding on a whim, you're going to like completely upheaval your life. Like I would highly suggest first to get your hormones tested, because like it's a very real feeling, and it feels it's unexpected, and you're just like, I have no idea what it is, and it's very unsettling. And to then just assume, oh yeah, I just don't feel anything for this person anymore, when it could be low progesterone. Like, it's incredibly important to do labs and to look at this, because progesterone declines as you go into your mid-30s and beyond. So there is a higher likelihood, unless you properly support your hormones, which you can, that this kind of stuff can come up, right? And if you're low and all of a sudden you're feeling all these, you don't feel, right? And you feel disconnected and you're more critical of yourself, you're craving more sugar, it's so much easier to go and emotionally eat or binge. Also getting into other compulsive behaviors as well. And you need enough progesterone to love yourself and to actually feel connected to yourself and feel worthy. With low levels, we're more apt to people please, to become attached to other people, especially our partners, and to feel very insecure. So this progesterone and estrogen it does some of the same stuff with mood, but progesterone is more pronounced with it. So if you have both low estrogen and progesterone, you're going to have a double whammy here. And again, like, it's incredibly important that we investigate this. I do hormone testing with all of my clients because we need to see what's going on in correlation with your symptoms and how you're feeling. And 9 times out of 10, there's low progesterone or low progesterone and low estrogen. So yeah, it has a huge impact on relationships if you don't know what the symptoms are and like what to address. And I see it completely resolve.
I mean, it's good news that you can resolve it.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I think it's really good to sort of link emotional eating as well to hormones. It might be hormone driven. I mean, I think we all go through emotional eating at certain times when anxiety's high, and but it may not be a problem, right? It might just be, oh, well, I'm feeling a bit low, so I'm going to have this. But normally I'm sort of very healthy, and what I do is healthy eating. So there is a sort of a balance, isn't there, when it becomes a problem versus when it's just a way of coping with something in that moment, which isn't like an everyday thing, maybe.
Yeah. And so, I mean, everyone has their different perception of like what a balanced approach is with food. And in my opinion, like, I don't think we should be using food as a coping mechanism ever, because and that's just my personal opinion, because I'm like, well, what is it that I am too nervous or afraid to feel that I need a crutch for? And why can't I replace emotional eating with a healthier tool like journaling or talking about it or breath or getting outside or just being able to even have a conversation with myself and see why I have such a hard time feeling through a stressful time or feeling through a certain emotion. So my goal is to help my clients, and I fully overcame these behaviors. I want to help them fully break free of them.
So does that mean that you would never eat anything unhealthy then?
No, so it means I would never use food as a coping mechanism. So I would never have anxiety and go, I need to go and eat to deal with this. Like, I don't believe in that. And that's what I teach my clients. So I'm all about having a mindful relationship with food, which means I am eating in a way that is supportive to my health and longevity most of the time. And sometimes I'm going to enjoy a dessert. I'm going to enjoy a mindful indulgence. When we travel, I'm going to go try that thing that I can only get in this place. And the key is eating it slowly and mindfully and really enjoying it. And you're in that mindful place with food when you enjoy it, and there's no guilt or shame to follow. There's no like, oh, well, I better compensate and go work out for 3 hours. It's just enjoying the moment like you would enjoy any other moment and moving on to the next part of your day. And that to me is really where freedom lies. And when you build your worth and you really love yourself and you heal this part of you, you get to have that and you don't lose control. And there's not all this old chatter in your mind because you've cleared it out. And as you heal and you really love yourself also, you don't want to punish yourself with food. And you're like, I feel courageous and I know I believe in myself. I know I can get through anything that comes my way and that I don't have to numb out. And I think that's such an empowering place to be. Because when you have the tools and you learn how to cope in other more mindful ways, you really gain a lot of confidence and belief in yourself that you can like handle anything. Not that you invite in anything that you don't want, but it's just like you believe in yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can all gift ourselves, is to love ourselves and believe in ourselves and know no matter what, I've got my back and I've got ways to cope in healthier ways.
And is that because you talk a lot about body freedom? What do you mean by that? And is that about taking your power back and being more conscious in your decisions?
Yeah. 100%. So body freedom is about everything we've just been talking about. So it's like that mindful balance with food. It's the being slow and intentional with food. It's giving yourself permission to have a mindful indulgence and knowing kind of what that balance is. It's getting to the roots of your hormone and gut and blood sugar issues and regulating them. It's building the self-love and the self-worth so that you feel so empowered and confident living in your body, and that helps you create everything in your life that you want. Really, it improves your relationships because you're fulfilled and whole, and that's going to have a
Yeah.
positive ripple on everyone else. Body freedom is also about really like trusting your body and learning how to listen to your body, and being aware is the biggest superpower you can give yourself, because when you're aware of your thoughts and emotions, your body, etc., and something feels off, you can kind of tune into it and you can go, oh, this feels off, let me investigate why. Okay, this is what it is, and then I can deal with it and shift. And it's your body's such a
You
great
got
teacher. She's always trying to teach you.
you got any tips? Because I think what you're saying is amazing, and I think a lot of people will benefit from everything you're saying. But in the moment, until you've
Hmm.
trained yourself to kind of question and then go, oh yeah, I'm going to follow through. Because in the
Hmm.
moment, it can be very easy to go, yeah, but I just need
Hmm.
that now, and that chocolate bar's
Yeah,
just there. Or,
totally.
is there something in that moment that we can do almost as a pattern interrupt, so
Hmm.
until it becomes more of a deeper rooted practice for us?
Yeah, definitely. There's a few little things. So the first thing is like the question I said earlier. You ask yourself, is this physical or emotional hunger? But now the bigger part is, are you going to go, yeah, it's emotional hunger, but I don't care, I'm going to do it anyway? And the question to start challenging yourself with is, what does it cost me to not care, to continue to not care, and to continue to hurt my body with food? What does it cost me? Because it's pretty eye-opening when you start to reflect on the ways it's impacting you and
Mm.
your mental health and your bank account and your relationships and all these other things. And so it's like, what does it cost me to not care? And what if I actually did care and I didn't go to the chocolate right now and I dealt with whatever this is instead? So I think that that's incredibly helpful. And then starting to build awareness of your triggers. So what is triggering you to go to food? Understanding that is incredibly powerful and helpful, because that's what's going to help you actually start to catch your triggers and work through them. And then I think the last piece is starting to dedicate time to that self-care practice. Open up 10 minutes a day. You can make it longer as you get more, progressing on your journey, but we need to be willing to take time to start building awareness, understanding why we're doing what we're doing, and time to like relax and
Yeah.
tend to our needs. We're tending to everyone else. You need to have time to tend to your needs. You deserve it. And so starting to dedicate that time is incredibly important, because it's going to help you not only start building awareness, but it's going to help you start regulating your nervous system. You're going to feel more calm, and you're going to feel less likely to go to food when you learn what's going to help you like process through your emotions. So I think those things are really helpful. And then honestly, if you've been struggling for years and decades, consider getting some help. Getting
Yeah,
some support, I
definitely.
think, is important, because it's very
Yeah.
it's so complex.
Well, talking about that, how can people find you, Amber? Where can they go to find you and your work?
Yeah, so the website is amberapproved.ca. I have a free emotional eating quiz. If you're wondering, if you are struggling, you can take that and you'll get some podcasts. I do also offer a complimentary 30-minute body freedom consultation, so we
Oh,
can connect on Zoom and talk about whatever's going on for you and see if it's a fit to work together. The podcast is called the No Sugarcoating Podcast, and it's available everywhere, including the website. And then I'm on social media, Instagram primarily. It's my name, at Amber Romaniuk, Romaniuk.
brilliant. Wow. I mean, I think you've given so much information there. I mean, so much in a short space of time. There's a lot to digest and, pardon the pun, but to work
Yeah.
through and think about carefully. Because I think there's, just so many layers to this. And it's about starting to question and ask those
Hmm.
questions that you've been asking, which are great.
Happiness is honestly being present in the moment and being in awe and gratitude of everything. Like, my body gave me a second chance through all the hell that I put her through, and I'm
Mm.
so beyond grateful. And healing helped me create the life I have today, which also included attracting my soulmate, I'm been with over 10 years, and he's
Oh.
amazing. We have the most amazing, beautiful relationship. But because I learned to love myself first, and I think self-love is what's helped me become the happiest, because I feel in my power, and that gives me my peace and my fun and everything that I've created in my life. And health, I think health is a huge part of happiness as well.
I think it's such an inspiring story for people listening, that you came from just being on the school bus, and having that awful incident where kids were laughing at you for being fat. That's just harrowing. But then taking that pain and then learning to control what's going on for you and understanding and deep diving rather than just constantly pushing it away, and then turning it on its head and moving forward and actually now helping others with it is really inspiring. Just one thing you mentioned during the interview that I'd love just to pick up on quickly, because I know we're almost out of time, but you said you didn't like Ozempic. Obviously, Ozempic is great in some people's eyes. I'm just in the middle of watching some new documentary that's come out on Netflix at the moment about it. But people are talking about how obviously it helps you shift the weight. And if you are, if you've got diabetes, you're struggling with type 2, it can help, with blood sugar and can be, I guess, in some ways life-saving from that perspective. What are your thoughts on it?
So I'm a no. I maybe somewhat for blood sugar. However, the problem is with all this stuff from Big Pharma, why are they not helping you understand why you got type 2 in the first place, which you fully get from eating processed food, okay, having a sugar addiction, having high cortisol, having chronic inflammation in the body. Why are we not being educated about those things and supported to shift that? All of a sudden, it's like slap a medication on because it makes Big Pharma a lot of money, and I don't like that. Quick fixes. You know how many lawsuits are coming out about Ozempic now? Thousands of people are dying because they're having like gastric emptying, that their paralysis of the digestive system, turbo cancer and the thyroid. People are going blind. I just was reading comments on a post the other day where someone was using it for type 2 and they died because they had digestive paralysis.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's not happening to everyone, but I think I'm concerned with the amount of epidemic cases we're going to be seeing in the next 2 to 3 years. I just don't trust Big Pharma, and you can't mess with nature. And for blood sugar, in some cases, along with improving the way that you eat, reducing inflammation, hormone support maybe, but not for weight loss, not for trying to deal with binge eating. You cannot quick fix your way out of these issues because weight is a protective mechanism. It's an emotional hormonal issue as well. It's a metabolic issue. And same with binge and emotional eating. You cannot quick fix your way out of it. And the side effects are life.
If someone is dealing with that and they will you help them with that? So if someone contacts you, will you go through that with them and help them create a plan for moving forward?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And if you're on Ozempic or you've realized that you do not want to be doing it anymore, get support with coming off of it and the course correction, because it does impact your hormones and your gut and your mood and all of these things that then we have to work on healing. So yeah, I'm very stern on my opinion about it because I've not seen it be a benefit.
I love it. I'm with you on that too. I think, we've got to consciously take control back over everything in our lives, and break up divorce. Domestic abuse is something that will put you through a lot of emotional roller coaster, and there will be, addictions and food issues, maybe alcohol, partying, all sorts of issues and anxieties and problems that come from that. But we don't solve that with an injection or a tablet or alcohol or food. Brings us back to everything you do. So if you're listening and you do need that extra bit of help, I'm sure some of this has resonated very strongly with a lot of my audience. So if you do reach out to Amber, check her out, find her on Instagram, find her on the internet. And we look forward to seeing how your work progresses, Amber, because I think you're doing amazing work out there. And thank you for being a fabulous guest.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for the work you're doing as well. It's so needed, and I'm so grateful that we could connect today.
Me too. That's it for today's episode, everyone. Do like, follow, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I very much look forward to you joining us on my next episode.
That's it for today's episode of Heartbreak to Happiness. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to win a free ticket to Sara's virtual Heartbreak to Happiness retreat. This is a transformative combination of live webinars with Sara herself, coupled with her empowering online video program designed to help you cope better with your breakup and start feeling happy again. Thank you, and join us again on the next episode for another dose of Heartbreak to Happiness.